Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Kilo 141 with the most recent nerf to the Bruin Mark 9. I think this gun shot straight to first as the best gun to use right now in Warzone. There's a lot of simple reasons why. In today's video, we're going to talk about the best class setup to use for this gun. Basically breaking down all the attachments, tell you guys what attachments stack best together to give you guys the best overall class setup. A lot of simple reasons why this is the best gun. I think it's the easiest to use. It has basically no recoil, or has the least amount of vertical recoil out of every gun in the game. Another good stat about it has the best range of all the assault rifles. Obviously the growl range got nerfed, which this then took the Kilo to #1 in that category. It has two very good barrels, in which the Prowler barrel gets the best increase out of any barrel in the game, which is excellent. So the barrels of it are incredible. Like I said, it has no recoil and it has amazing range. And then the best thing about it is it does have a higher mid-range damage than the M4 and the Growl, which makes it have a faster time to kill at that mid-range than both those weapons, which to me is a excellent factor for Warzone. So the first thing I want to talk about is the two class setups I recommend most. And then obviously we're going to basically be breaking down the biggest difference and how we basically built that class setup by telling you guys what attachments stack best together. The biggest difference for this gun is whether you use the Socom barrel or the Prowler barrel. To me, they are two complete opposites. The Socom barrel is for more aggressive players. The Prowler barrel is for more slower players. They are two complete opposites as far as how the stats affect the gun. With that Prowler barrel, we're going to be stacking it with obviously the 60 round mag and the monolith suppressor. We're going to be using the Commando foregrip, which is obviously going to help our stabilization and our stability. We're going to be stacking with that VLK sight to give us an increased range. We'll be able to seal it farther across the map. Also, the VLK reduces your recoil and improves your stabilization. So stacking the VLK and the Commando dialer is going to give you the best accuracy and basically give you the best accurate class setup possible for the Kilo, which this gun, like I said, is amazing at mid to long range. Is definitely where this class setup is going to be best. Obviously, you're getting the best range as well using the Prowler barrel. So with the Socom barrel, we're going to be building it to get the best rushing class. Obviously, 60 round mag, monolith suppressor, and the Socom barrel. What we're going to be stacking it with is actually the Merc foregrip. The Merc foregrip obviously gives a little bit slower aim down sight time, but improved hip fire, and obviously improved movement speed, which is excellent. So the increase you get in your movement speed is going to give you an excellent increase to be able to move around faster in that close range. The biggest difference as far as that fifth attachment, what I recommend most is the Tac Laser, especially in Warzone. A lot of the fights you're getting to aren't like more one-on-one. It's a lot of times you're shooting somebody and they can't see you where you have an advantage. So with the Tac Laser, you're going to get faster aim down sight time, which is going to help counter that Merc loss in the aim down sight time. And you're also going to get improved first shot accuracy. So stacking the Merc and the Socom together is going to give you a great reduction in your vertical recoil. But stacking that Tac Laser on there is going to help you with your stability, which is going to be your first shot. And then the aim locking steadiness is going to help you track players a little bit better in the close range and the mid range, which is where I think this class setup is built best. Like I said, the VLK or the Tac Laser is probably best, but I think the Socom barrel class setup with the Merc is going to be the #1 class setup to use for the Kilo because it gives the best stats. So as far as talking about what is the actual biggest difference between those barrels, the range is definitely noticeable when you compare the Prowler to the Socom. With the Prowler, obviously, like I said, you're getting the 45% increase, which is the #1 increase out of any barrel in the game. The Socom is about 28%, which is pretty average. But the difference in range as far as in distance, you guys will see a little chart on the screen. The difference is about 39 to 44 meters, which is about a 5-meter difference, which is definitely probably noticeable. Usually barrels, the difference is between like 2 and 3 meters, so it's a little bit farther. And then in that mid-range goes from 70 meters all up to 79 meters, which is a little over a 10% difference, which you will definitely notice in that mid-range. To go from 70 to 80 meters, you will 100% notice. You're also going to be getting a little bit better, like I said, in that mid-range to increase that time to kill. I think that's the biggest reason to use the Prowler barrel. You guys will be able to see once again on the screen the difference in the recoil pattern. You guys can see the Prowler definitely does have a lot less recoil. And like I said, this gun has no recoil already to begin with. So using the Prowler is going to help increase your accuracy and increase your ability to hit your shots. With that range increase, can help the gun the best. As far as talking about obviously what makes the Socom barrel is going to be those negatives. With that Prowler barrel, you're getting a 35% worse hip fire, which is going to make it terrible in the hip fire range at close. And then Socom's only 25% worse, which is not as bad. As far as the loss in mobility, the biggest reason the Socom beats the Prowler barrel is you have no loss in movement speed and no loss in stray speed. So your ability to move around and win one-on-one gunfights up close, your ability to be a little bit more mobile up close is incredible with the Socom. Your aim down sight's only about 45 milliseconds slower. compared to the Prowler, which is 62. Not a big difference in the aim down sight time, but with that Prowler barrel, you're getting a 4% slower movement speed and a 10% slower stray speed, which those two stats alone immediately to me take the Kilo really far down in the mobility category. Like I said, with that Socom barrel, getting a no loss in either of those categories is to me what makes it better than the Prowler. Like I said, if you're a more long-range player, those stats you really don't care about for the Prowler. But for me, like I said, the Socom has a lot of positives for very few negatives, and it obviously gets an increase in your recoil and your bullet velocity, which helps a lot. So I personally prefer the Socom, but if it was, me picking on a slower player, I would use the Prowler. So what we're going to talk about next is actually the grips. Obviously on both different class setups, I recommend the Commando, and then another one I recommended the Merc. The biggest difference is, once again, similar to those barrels in the mobility category. With that Merc foregrip getting a 4% faster movement speed and the Commando getting a 2% slower movement speed, that's a big difference in what is going to make you pick one grip over the other. And the biggest negative about the Commando is that hidden stat, which is the 14% slower stray speed, which is the Merc is only 8% slower. So it has a significantly slower movement speed, a significantly lower stray speed, in exchange to get a little bit better stabilization, obviously a better first shot accuracy. The Merc obviously improves your hip fire for a slower aim down sight time, which to me is kind of irrelevant. The biggest difference being the mobility. The Merc has a faster stray speed and a significantly faster movement speed, which is why I probably think 99% of players are going to be using that Merc foregrip. You guys can see the biggest difference on the recoil on the screen. If you're actually taking a look at it, that Merc foregrip basically has no recoil at all. The difference in that first shot, you can see with that Commando, it definitely kicks a little harder in the first few shots, but the stabilization to me is almost identical, if not the Merc looks better. If you're asking my honest opinion, and I'm running a class setup with the Kilo, I'm going to be using the Merc probably 99% of the time, just because it's so much better than the Commando in the mobility category, which is very hard to find for the Kilo. As far as why you should use the Commando, number one is obviously better stabilization equals higher accuracy. You're also going to improve the idle sway. So if you're not the best as far as your ability to shoot and hit your shots, 100% use the Commando. Like I said, also if you're stacking it with that VLK sight, definitely use the Commando, because the VLK and Commando together gives you the best stabilization possible. Like I said, with that Merc, it's going to be best, in my opinion, over the Commando for any barrel, any class setup you're using. But if you're using the Prowler barrel, I definitely recommend the Commando, because the Prowler is going to give you a significant reduction in that vertical recoil, which the Merc does the same, so they're kind of useless to stack together. And the next thing I want to talk about first was actually the no stock attachment. With the Kilo 141 basically having the least amount of vertical recoil, the biggest negative you're getting with that no stock attachment is actually a worse recoil, which the Kilo has the best of. So I definitely 100% recommend the no stock attachment. It has some hidden stats about it that are incredible, which makes it an amazing attachment. I do believe they actually did a recent buff and obviously a recent nerf to the idle sway, but the buff they did to it, I think, was hidden. They actually improved the movement speed you get on certain weapons with the no stock. So the actual stats of it, you get a 4% faster movement speed, a 20% faster stray speed. You also get a 20% better hip fire. And it obviously changes your iron sights, which you guys can see on the screen. It actually changes your field of view a little bit. Makes your iron sights a little bit smaller, which on certain guns actually helps out a lot. Those are four, in my opinion, of the best things it can add to get a faster stray speed and a better hip fire and a 4% faster movement speed. Those are all really, really good stats. In exchange, the idle sway, which you guys will be able to see on the screen, is actually pretty terrible. They really, really did nerf this into the ground. For any of you guys that watch the CWL, you guys watch the COD pros, they all use no stock. The positive and stats it gets, in my opinion, are 100% worth it using. The stray speed, the hip fire, and the movement speed are actually incredible. Obviously, like I said, it does get worse recoil, which you guys can see on the screen. But if you're countering it by using that Prowler barrel and using the Merc foregrip together, the Merc and the Prowler are going to counter the no stock's loss in recoil. In exchange to get basically no recoil, you get a very good hip fire. You also get obviously basically counter each other out to give you the fastest stray speed. You get 8% faster movement speed, which is 100% going to give you an excellent class setup to use in Warzone. I definitely recommend trying this class setup out with the no stock attachment, the Prowler, and the Merc foregrip. It's going to be an excellent class setup. And then the other thing to talk about is the unique attachments it has. It does have the 100-round mag. We're going to take a look at the 50 versus 60 versus the 100-round mag. Not that big of a difference as far as the overall attachments. The one thing I wanted to talk about this part was do not recommend the 100-round mag. You guys can see on the screen the actual stats of all these. You get on 9% slower movement speed by using the 100-round drum mag. In exchange for the 50 and the 60 is only 1.5% and 3% slower, which is not bad. You also get a 45 milliseconds slower aim down sight time. So 100% recommend avoiding the 100 round mag. As far as the biggest difference in the 50 and the 60, with the Kilo being very accurate, I was always going to recommend using the 60 round mag in Warzone. The loss of movement speed is very minimal. You won't notice it. So definitely 60 round mag is going to be 100% the best attachment to use. And then obviously with that best class level with Socom, I did recommend using the Tac Laser. So we're talking about with the Tac Laser, how good it actually is. Obviously the number one thing it does improve is your aim down sight time, which is excellent to improve for a gun that's a close range or a mid-range weapon. Aim down sight time improvement is incredible to me. 25 milliseconds faster, which you definitely will notice is about 10% faster. As far as the biggest stat increase that I like to use for it in Warzone is that aim walking steadiness. I'll showcase a little demo on the screen. You guys can see with and without the Tac Laser. What the aim walking steadiness is when you're strafing, you're trying to track an enemy. If you're actually aim down sight and you're moving with the Tac Laser, your steadiness is improved. So your ability of your reticle to actually track to an enemy is easier. Therefore, it improves your accuracy by a significant amount. And obviously, it also improves your idle sway, which is going to help you get that first shot. I think the Tac Laser is probably the number one attachment you don't use in Warzone because the stat increases you get are incredible in exchange for no negatives except for your laser being seen, which is only seen up to like 35 meters. Beyond that, they can't even see it. So I definitely think this is probably the number one attachment to use for the Kilo, due to the fact that it has an excellent increase in your ability to track enemies, which is, in my opinion, amazing for Warzone. So as far as the VLK sight versus the Canted, to pick which is the best optic to use for the Kilo, the biggest difference for me is in that aim down sight time. The VLK is only 16 milliseconds slower, which the Canted Hybrid is 41 milliseconds, which is 2.5 times slower. So if you're stacking with like the Prowler barrel and a 60 round mag and the Merc foregrip where your aim down sight's already terrible, putting that Canted Hybrid on there is going to lower your aim down sight time to almost LMG level versus the VLK sight is still not as bad. They both do improve your recoil, which you guys will be able to see on the screen. I think the VLK sight is probably the number one attachment to use in Warzone if you're using an optic, just due to the fact that it improves your vertical recoil and your stabilization, which is your side-to-side recoil, which is going to help improve your accuracy by a long shot. The biggest difference you guys will note is the actual field of view changes with that. Obviously, the Canted, your 3.25 zoom versus the VLK is a 3.0 zoom. Obviously, I play on PC, so field of view is a little bit of a bigger factor for me. I prefer the VLK sight just because it doesn't zoom in as far. I just feel like the recoil is better of it. So that's pretty much it for all the attachments. I try to cover each one in depth to try and give you guys a good recommendation of which one is best. Like I said, I think this is right now the number one gun to use in Warzone, just due to the fact that it does everything well. And if you stack a couple of those really good attachments together, it's going to give you probably one of the top 2, top 3 class setups statistically in the game, which in my opinion is what makes the Kilo amazing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, make sure you guys do leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, leave a comment down below. Make sure you guys use code Trapgod on all of your Scuff and GFUEL purchases. If you guys haven't yet, follow me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Trapgod. Come over, follow live stream. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.